Hello, and welcome to Radio NIGP. In 2026, we continue to talk about thinking differently in our lives and the public procurement profession. As many of us are looking towards the end of our fiscal year, have you embraced a new way of looking at your own to-do list? Have you picked up new tips from events you've attended? Are you looking forward to the NIGP Forum in Columbus? No matter where your new ideas get generated, your team at Radio NIGP encourages you this year to explore those concepts to your benefit and that of your agency. So grab your drink of choice, sit back, and enjoy this episode of Radio NIGP.
Back in 1896, Walter Arnold was cited for a crime. His crime? Going 8 miles per hour in a 2 mile per hour zone. Police officers had to pursue him for 5 miles before they caught up and were able to cite him for riding a vehicle that was not maneuvered by a horse and going over the speed limit. My name is Brooke Smith, and I'm a part of Radio NIGP, and as well as a speaker that attended last week's NIGP VCon conference. This was the second VCon conference we did that was emphasized in technology and artificial intelligence. We had over 501 individuals join us live and share information about AI and things that are happening moving on. We had a 94% success rate where people would refer their friends and their colleagues to attend this conference, and we want to keep growing it. This is a great source to get information if you feel like AI is moving fast or technology is moving too fast, just like it was moving too fast back in the early 1900s with transportation. This is a place for you. We hope that you'll join us this year for NIGP Forum in Ohio, and if we don't see you there, we hope you'll join us next year for VCon as we continue to grow and expand this series for you. Let me just tell you, I just watched the recordings from the rest of the conference, and they were phenomenal. It's something that you do not want to miss. There was tons of great information and resources available for you, and it really helps set the stage for how procurement professionals continue to advance and push forward AI responsibly and ethically. We hope to see you there. Have a great day, and this is my AI News Minute.
Hello, friends. I hope your spring is full of wonderful things and that your allergies are not driving you crazy. Truly, spring is my favorite time of year. It's a time of new life and fresh flowers and beautiful shades of green. Speaking of shades of green and sunshine, I had the opportunity to present at FAPO this week on the power of perspective in procurement. Spoiler alert for those that are attending Forum. I will be doing a version of the session there as well, so shameless plug, come join me. But anyway, during this session, we covered a lot of things, but I wanted to remind us of one point in particular during this month's show. Procurement is a people business. Success is often found at the intersection of conflicting viewpoints, and we have a great opportunity to challenge ourselves to think differently when we're working with our stakeholders. Procurement's value is not found in the lowest price, but in the highest alignment. So this month, I hope you will take a walk. And no, not literally outside just because it's spring. You can if you want to, but rather take a walk in the shoes of your stakeholders. Challenge yourself to see their viewpoint and to think a little bit differently before you start defending your own. Until next time, friends, have a great day on purpose.
Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Allaire, staff with Radio NIGP. Back in March, you saw an interview that Don Buffum did with Jack Pellegrino and I about the National Contract Management Association Contract Management Standard and how we've used it in our work life. I'm very pleased to have Jack with me here again today, and also Craig Conrad, who is the Executive Director of NCMA, the National Contract Management Association. We're going to try and bridge that gap between the procurement silo and the contract management silo and why we need to work together. Jack, you want to just refresh people's memory on where you've been and how you've been involved with not just procurement, but the contract management standard?
Sure. Thank you, Linda. Again, welcome to the segment again, and I'm pleased to be with you. Have over 40 years of experience both on the federal side and the public side. As many of you recall, I was the former director at the County of San Diego here. And prior to that, I spent half of my career doing working in the aerospace industry, representing as a seller to the federal government and across the whole spectrum of federal procurement. So, and right now I am an adjunct faculty down at the University of San Diego here. And I'm in the supply chain management program.
And Craig, can you tell our listeners, our viewers actually, a little bit about yourself and how you got into the NCMA and how you and Jack connected on this contract management standard? I'm sure they're interested.
Well, certainly. And Linda, thank you so much for bringing me on Radio NIGP. Longtime listener, so now first time on the show. I didn't come from procurement or contract management. I actually, my career had been in capital markets and then in associations focused, professional societies focused on capital markets. Came to NCMA about 8 years ago. Have been delighted to get to know a lot about how folks in the public sector are very focused on the outcomes and serving the mission. So one of the folks I met in that journey was Jack Pellegrino, and it was very clear that he loved this community. He had tremendous passion for it, not just the people, but the outcomes that we seek. So he's been there with me since I started and has been a wonderful counsel. He had been on various initiatives along the way, including NCMA's certification programs, connected in with our chapters, teaching, speaking at events, on and on. And when we began this process 8 or 9 years ago to stand up this standard, it was obvious that Jack should be on the journey with us.
Wow, that's great. And I'm glad to hear you mention that you've got a whole training program and certification program, because people may not know what NCMA is, let alone what offerings you have. So I have taken the opportunity to look through your website and see what's posted up there. I would encourage anybody else to do that as well. And while they're there, pull down that contract management standard, because it's available on the public facing side. So you don't have to be a member to get it. So take that opportunity. And thank you so much, Craig, for sharing that outside of the membership. I personally think it is not only important to bridge the gap between procurement and contract administration, contract management as a whole, but any teaching resource that we can have, or any resource that we can use to connect with our client departments, is a benefit. So thank you very much for doing that.
You're very welcome.
Now, how did the contract management standard actually come to be? How did you develop it? I know it's currently in its 4th edition. The last one seemed to be more minor tweaks, but since it's in its 4th edition, you've had some progressive evolution as it's.
We have. So when it first came out, it was very much focused on the U.S. federal buyer and their perspective. Of course, as you mentioned in your last segment in March, it does represent the buyer and seller. NCMA is a neutral forum of buyers and sellers, but it still was very flavored on the U.S. federal buyer. It was part of our mission, though. NCMA is out there to elevate the practice, the profession of contract management. Contract management includes the entire life cycle, which procurement is part of. Certainly, post-award managing the relationship is equally as important as the pre-award. So that is it's how it started. Recently, about maybe a year and a half ago, we partnered with World Commerce and Contracting to help it become a global standard. Again, our goal is to establish what this profession is. One good way to do that is to have common language, common life cycle, common terms. So we, through that partnership, took the sort of American flavored, buyer flavored version and created working groups around the world. So we had an APAC, an EMEA, and an Americas. The concern, the thinking was, there's no way the world's going to agree. I mean, you see what our world is like. We're not going to agree. And Jack was on the standard consensus body that had to hear what our panels around the world had to say. We were so delighted that everyone came together and started to recognize how alike we are. Starting the process, people were like, "Oh, I'm different. I only do A and D. I'm so different, right? Oh, I'm transportation. We are so different." The reality is when you render it down to these steps and these job tasks, we do the same thing, whether you're buying an aircraft or you're buying lawnmowers. It follows the same process. So that's how we evolved to the contract management standard version 4 or edition 4.
Wow, that's wonderful. And in my career, I was involved with GS1 on standards. It's always interesting to me where we all think we're so different, and then we start to talk and we find out that, yeah, we've got our little idiosyncrasies, but by and large, we're all doing the same thing. Hence NIGP's global best practices, right? I mean, we're all kind of focused on what is the standard process because that provides the transparency, the accountability, and the structure to get it right, or as right as we possibly can. That's a wonderful thing. So you mentioned, Craig, that you're talking with the World Congress about a global standard. Do you have any kind of time frame when you're hoping that might be a reality?
So NCMA is currently an American National Standards developer. So we're an SDO. We're on our journey to ISO. ANSI is a member of the international body ISO. So there isn't a true timeline. There is a test that you could say we're ready. And that test is, are there adopters around the world that ISO covers, right? So that is our true test. And you will see when you go to the NCMA website or the Institute website, ccm.institute, and download the standard, you will see that there's a lot of adopters, and those adopters are more and more from around the world. That is really the timeline, if you will, or the threshold is we need to be able to stand in front of ISO and say that this is truly a standard around the world because it's being used, it's adopted around the world. And my apologies for those air quotes.
Well, that's okay because we do that all the time, don't we? It's the way we talk sometimes. Yeah. And realistically, with being an ANSI standard, at least from my personal experience in procurement, here in Canada, we use ANSI standards all the time. Like, why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
And if it's a standard that's utilized by your largest trading partner, why would you not recognize it and leverage it when it's appropriate to do so? So moving it to an ISO standard, I think is a great thing to do personally. And it's finally being done. Sometimes that's the problem, right? It's getting started. Everybody thinks somebody else is going to do it, and they're not quite sure how to, herd the cats. And ultimately, it doesn't get done. But good on you, Craig, for leading the NCMA into doing that, and Jack for providing your input. Now,
well, I've truly had the honor to participate meaningfully in both organizations, NCMA and NIGP. And I can see I'm really excited about the collaboration and integration that we're starting to form and promote and grow now with Craig's leadership, and formerly with our new director is Debbie is coming aboard, but Rick Grimm previously shared he would have been very excited to be part of this conversation, because all of us, when you think about CMS, Craig, we started with the job tasks and the competencies are the same in our profession. And those are the standards. The way you do it in the federal DoD side is a little bit different than what I do in the public, state and local side. And then every one of our 90,000, there's 90,000 public entities. When I think about that, it blows our mind, right, Linda?
Yep.
That there's, and each one of them are special. They have their own little nuances. But the competencies to do great contracting, and the definition of great contracting is getting your customers and your organization what they need, when they need it, for a fair and reasonable price, and within that passes public scrutiny. We're spending our money wisely, legally, and socially, ethically. Ethically is the word I'm going to use.
So, Craig, I understand that you watched the interview that Jack and I did for the March show. Do you have anything that you'd like to share with our viewers that we haven't covered yet?
The key thing that the journey, and I mentioned the adoption, but our journey to an international standard is that you do use it and read it. For our practice to really continue to elevate, and for this as a profession, and we're all one. I mean, we just mentioned that what we do might be slightly different, but procurement you might be buying, but the full contract management life cycle includes the sellers and how you get to performance. A little sidebar, though, some research from our institute, the Commerce and Contract Management Institute that I chair, is that there's in the public sector globally, there's more than 11% of value that is lost. It's called the value erosion in post-award. So I think, Jack, in our prep call, you were saying, and Linda, that it's kind of like walking up to a tree stump, putting some money on it and walking away and hope you get what you were expecting to get. So what we want to ensure that, and to expand on that from your last show, is to read it, to use it. It's a public good. So start looking at that and understanding, as Linda, you said, it gives you a sense of where that practice is. But remember, for the entire life cycle, your department may not see the beginning to end. You may not see the entire life cycle. So not only you reading it, but share it with those that do. Share it with the folks that don't consider themselves procurement or contract management people, but they are. They're helping to deliver on the last mile of value from that relationship, from that contract. So that's the other follow-on, is to make sure that those that are not necessarily in your department see it. It's a great way to explain what you do and what the process is and where they are in that process.
Yeah,
Greg,
absolutely.
that's a great segue, because this information we all know because we're close to it. We're practitioners of it, but our customers don't have that expertise because because they're running a park and rec, or they're responsible for building a building, or they're doing a social program. They don't have that expertise, but sharing the information with them so they can help craft a better specification, a better requirements document, better define what they want and what they need, then allows us to get that for them. And then most importantly, manage with that, with them, manage that post-award.
So you get what you wanted in performance. It's exactly the point. And we may not be at that table, right? we delivered, but there's still value that could be continued to add by them continuing and understanding that cycle, because the next step after you're done is you have to inform the next buy. You need to be in making sure the information is getting back, so you're improving each cycle.
Yeah,
Very
that
good point.
contract closeout and closing that loop is something that quite often in public sector is not done or is not done well. And it's one of our biggest downfalls, in my personal opinion. And Jack probably won't be too surprised by this, but I have been known to color outside the lines occasionally. I have even shared
I
that
knew I liked you,
standard.
Linda.
I have even shared that standard with my suppliers, particularly if they're new to government contracting, because they don't understand why we do the stuff we do. And I give that to them, and they're like, oh, it's a playing card. It's like the rules of the game. Well, yeah, kind of, sort of. Now we've got a few of our own that are, somewhat unique, but this is the general process. So it doesn't matter who you talk to. This is the general process that they would go through. And the feedback I've received from those folks is like, we never knew this existed. This is so helpful. Thank you for sharing with it. So it's one of those things that I see great things in the future. NIGP has adopted the standard, but I really hope that forging that relationship and building it even stronger between our two associations can move forward and provide even more benefit, not just to our membership, but to yours as well, so that we get rid of those silos and we come just, well, for want of a better word, a bigger, happier family.
Indeed.
Linda, to your point about sharing this information with our contractor supplier community, absolutely. I was trained when I started in my career. I started with TRW, which is now Northrop Grumman, a little small company. Some of the best training I got was I started with NCMA.
Mm-hmm.
The NCMA curriculum and their conferences and that's why I became a CPCM. And yes, I learned my company gave me the nuances of how we did our business as a company, but the profession was built on, the joint competencies and information of my colleagues, not just on the government side, but in other contracting. So I became a better professional because I was part of NCMA, and I think NIGP is the same way. I think sometimes we don't share that information with our contractors and supplier communities the way we should, because we have too far of, we all know where the arm's length relationship is as professionals, but you become better if you share it with each other and know what the rules of the game are and what the expectations are.
Yeah. And moving from, just knowledge transfer to competencies, NIGP has been doing that for years, moving from the old style to the LEAP program, now to the Pathways program, building, leveraging competencies, not just the knowledge exchange. And this sort of thing between our two associations, I think, is critical, particularly moving forward into this world as it changes so dramatically on almost a daily basis, because it's tough keeping up. So we have to learn from others' mistakes and learn from others' competencies and knowledge that they share with us.
Indeed, we're stronger together. We're stronger together.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, any last words before we call it a day?
Well, let me start, if I may, Craig.
Please do.
One of the things that I want to emphasize to our membership on both sides, NIGP and NCMA, is what I'm a living example is the skills that you gain are transferable. I came out of the federal world, out of the NCMA DoD government world, and I was well served by that knowledge and background, and when I moved into the public side, of where I spent, 15, 20 years doing. So I think for our members, it's having the ability to transfer. Those skills are transferable. There may be a day you want to work for a federal contractor, a federal agency, or a state or local agency. I know that's happened in my career. So that's one reason why I think being affiliated with both organizations, and although we are unique in some ways, we are so much more similar. And I think CMS just brings us even closer with that professional competency that is now universal.
Agreed. And Jack, well said. I don't know that I could add much more to that other than to encourage the listeners to reach out. First, of course, first and foremost, go to the standard. It's a public good. You're able to use it for your own use and for your organization's use. Please do so. But reach out. As I said, we're stronger together. So if you look at this and see that there's something that strikes you, that interests you in the standard, if it helps to open a door for you, or it creates questions, please reach out. I think I definitely know Jack is available at least 23 and a half hours a day because he's always responding.
I'm on the other time zone, so I might get an email to a strange hour from me.
But we're here, and I look forward to seeing everyone at Forum this year. I think it's going to be a great year for it.
Thank you, Craig. And to all of our listeners, keep thinking differently and keep building bridges. This is Radio NIGP.
Hi there, Ryan. Welcome back. Welcome back to our audience. We're back for another segment discussing this year's forum, which will be hosted in Columbus, Ohio. This month, we wanted to talk about your well-being as a person who's attending forum before, during, and after you're at the event. Ryan, if I asked you, what's your plan to care for your well-being, what would you say?
Well, I don't think you're going to like the answer, but my current plan is coffee, adrenaline, and hoping that my shoes do not betray me.
Yeah, that's not a wellness plan.
We'll agree to disagree. We'll call it a wellness draft for now.
Sure. Okay. Well, to make a little bit better of a plan, we've brought a guest with us today. We're very pleased and honored to have the Radio NIGP Wellness Guru join us, independent consultant Bobby Tolson, who many of you will recognize as a common Radio NIGP contributor. And she was telling us before we started, she is a 22-time forum attendee. So, Bobby, I have a feeling if I asked you your wellness plan to attend forum, you'd have a little bit more of a plan and not a draft.
Yes, Donna, just a little bit more. 3 years ago was my first time presenting at conference. I've gone all those years, never thought about presenting. Well, when I had my mental and emotional crisis, I wanted to share with the people, the procurement professionals that have been with me for decades. And after COVID, everyone was having some type of mental or emotional situation, right? So giving people information, resources to say, hey, you're coming to this conference, put your mental and emotional well-being first. Now I understand that my greatest asset is my emotional and mental well-being.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I know I definitely am excited for our conversation, and I think this is going to help me create a better wellness plan and definitely be beneficial for all of the conference attendees as well that might need just a little refresh.
So I started my mental health training. I called it Becoming a Human Being and Not Just a Human Doing. We all are doing. Very seldom are we just being, right? Being comfortable, being safe, being quiet. those were things that were foreign to me, right? So part of becoming is saying, look, you're a great procurement professional. You're an awesome leader. You're an awesome mother, all of those things, right? And we do all of the things. But when do we think about our own mental and emotional well being? Because I can tell you, no one thinks about it as much as you should. So as you're considering coming to forum, know that your emotional and mental well being should be first, not intermittent, not last, but a priority for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can't take care of the work we need to do. We can't take care of those around us if we don't take care of ourselves, right, Bobby?
Yes.
You're just telling me about that earlier. So,
So, what I learned is that in order for me to be a good leader of other people, I had to be a good leader for myself, right? I had everyone looking to me to solve problems. But when I hit the wall, there was no one there, right? I had to pretty much figure it out on my own. But what I'm hoping for during this segment is for us to give people some type of a checklist or something to follow. But most importantly, what I found is being self aware, right? Knowing when your sympathetic nervous system is in fight or flight mode. And unless you do something intentionally to come to a parasympathetic mindset, you're going to be in that emotional turmoil until you are intentional about getting out of it. That was the one thing that I learned. Like I stayed in fight or flight because everything was coming. And procurement professionals, we're like, everything comes and we're expected to do what? Handle it, right? Without delay, timely, right? So, where does your mental health fit in to all of that?
I think that is a great segue. If we just want to jump right in then, and we'll kind of touch on the first topic of mental health, and then we'll move on to physical and emotional well-being during and after conference as well, if that works for you, Bobby.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. So my question that I really kind of have, again, is a first timer, excited about conference, but with the anxiety creeping in. It's a lot of people, a lot of new people, a lot of strangers, huge conference venue. It's got to be what, over 1 million square feet of conference space. That center is huge, and very busy schedules. How do you recommend someone can manage that, to your point, and really kind of be self-aware before it turns on to a full-on sense of overwhelm and dread?
Yes. Thank you, Ryan. What I learned is that you have to create a plan before you go to forum, right? Once you get to forum, if you don't have a plan for managing your workload, you're not going to be able to manage your sympathetic nervous system because you're going to be on all the time because you're trying to focus on the classes that you've signed up with. You're trying to track emails so that you can make sure that the work continues to happen while you're gone. So what I did, I trained two people. I empowered them to be able to manage certain things while I was at the conference. I made a plan to say to them, I will answer emails at lunch. I decided when I was going to respond and I set expectations. First thing in the morning, during lunch, and at the end of the day, so that I made sure that I was engaged and focused during the conference by asking for help. That's a hard, easy thing to do, right?
and sometimes it can be hard in our profession to be able to set boundaries, right? That, oh, they'll just take care of it and they'll take care of it right away is, oh, well, that means I'm just available all the time. And you have to set those lines so that you can actually enjoy your experience instead of just spending the entire time checking your work email. Why'd you bother coming if you're just working the whole time? Right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And you end up stressing yourself even more, right? You keep yourself in that fight or flight mindset because you haven't made a plan to do anything different.
In terms of just maybe identifying, right, that stress is building or that there's trouble on the horizon. I mean, it's, again, lots of people in crowds, noises, they're going to be folks with different levels of sensory processing. The unfamiliar spaces can create anxiety, that pressure to be networking and to attending all of the sessions, or FOMO, and then feeling like you have to be on all day, both at the conference and in your inbox. Are there any like stress signs that you've identified over the course of your journey with wellness?
Yes, I call it mini breaks, right? MANYMINI, right? Take many breaks because your body tells you when you need to step back. But we don't always listen, right? So I would say the first thing is to listen to your body. It gives you all of the signals that you need to know that you are definitely in a sympathetic mindset. Having the ability to know that, what I would suggest is two things. When you look at your schedule, you may not want to book classes in succession. You may want to give yourself some space, time for self reflection, time to just check in with yourself, right? My first conference was in 2000 in Baltimore, which is where I live now, right? And I went to the first timers event and I met Stephanie, and her and I are still friends from 2000 to now. So I would suggest if you're a first timer, go to the first time event, find you a partner, right? Someone that's similarly situated, someone that's probably there by themselves. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is be okay with taking a break, right? You are there to learn, but not to be overwhelmed. So give yourself grace and say, you know what? I've gone through 3 classes. I just need to take a break. That's definitely another opportunity for you to network, to kind of get your mind off of all of those classes, because it can definitely be overwhelming. So make yourself a strategy not to take all of those classes in succession, but give yourself the opportunity for self-reflection and a break.
Yeah, and we've talked in previous episodes about how NIGP has such a good resource of recording so many of the sessions. So, if you just say, "Oh, I need a break. I can't go to this class even though I really wanted to attend it." If it's recorded, you can watch the recording later. So that FOMO, that fear of missing out, you can at least catch up on some of those materials later. So that's a really great resource to help with that, being able to build in breaks for yourself and not feel like, oh my gosh, I got to get to everything. I don't want to miss all these great classes.
Right. And to your point, my staff, if I went in person, they would attend virtually. So we did a schedule. You're taking these classes, you're taking these classes, you're taking these classes. And we presented once form was over for the classes that we took, so that everyone doesn't feel like I've got to take everything. So we made a plan. You're going to take these, you're going to take these, I'm going to take these. And that took a lot of the pressure off of me and saying, I've got to get all of this information and bring it back.
It really sounds like then the age-old adage of failure to plan is planning to fail, setting yourself up for that mental plan, knowing what your body needs and identifying the right structure for your activities and checking in with yourself is the way to go on this.
Absolutely. Without doubt, Ryan, you said it better than me.
Absolutely not.
Yes.
So this is perfect. Thank you for kind of touching on my concerns for mental health. Bobby, or Donna, do you want to take physical health next?
Sure. Yeah, and this is something that is especially a concern for me. I'm a person that faces some physical challenges, as many people do. I'm not trying to say I'm special or anything, but it's there's a component to events like these that we don't always think about, right? It's a lot of walking, sitting, standing, talking to people, a lot of physical exertion, right? I know that most of the hotels that are going to be part of the plan are all within walking distance, but that's still a lot of walking, right? What I've seen from the plan is that some of our events are going to be on one side of this large facility, and the main meeting room is going to be on the other side. So there's going to be a lot of physical. There's a big physical component to attending a conference like this. So, Bobby, what are your thoughts on preparing for that component of dealing with your physical energy and managing the time of the whole conference.
Yes, Donna. One of the main thing is knowing yourself, right? We can start there. If you do not walk every day, if you just go and sit down at your desk and you know that you're going to be walking, the first thing is preparing yourself mentally, right? I know that I'm going to have to do this, right? That's the first part, is knowing, because it's nothing worse than a surprise like, oh my God, I didn't know we were going to have to do this, right? So we're giving them the information up front. So to me, that can help you with a PLAN. You know, that's 4 letters, but it's one of the hardest things to do. So that would be my first thing, is understanding the layout, knowing where my hotel is. Because I think when you register, they tell you, a few blocks or a mile or whatever that is. But preparing yourself for that by bringing the right shoes, the right clothes, and believing in your own physical capabilities. If you can't walk the same length as someone else, be okay with sitting down and saying, I just need to take a break. Be okay with that, right? Don't feel compelled to do what everyone else is doing, because you could be physically hurting yourself and you're not going to enjoy the conference because you're going to be somewhere in pain taking some Motrins or something, right? So just understanding the layout of the land, creating a plan for those many breaks, right? A great break may be, oh, I know I can't walk over there. This may be a good time for me not to take this. Or, you know what I mean? I think everyone should feel empowered to make their own decisions about what they attend, what they do not attend. But most importantly, don't feel guilty, right? That guilt is something, I can't say mommy guilt, but just guilt, right? You know that your organization paid a lot of money for this. You want to make sure that you get the value out of it. But you also want to make sure that you're whole, right? You can accept what's coming your way and you're not overwhelmed by it. So I would wrap up by saying, have a plan, know your own physical limitations, be okay with a reset, but most importantly, be okay with saying no.
An important thing I think to just bring up as well around physical health, right, would be accessibility. And we're just wanting to know if you have any thoughts that you could provide of how attendees can really advocate for those mobility, sensory, dietary, or other needs that they need to be able to make their conference as enjoyable as everybody else.
I think NIGP does a great job with that. Over the past, I want to say 5 to 7 years, they have become much more aware about mobility, right? I have seen stations that have wheelchairs and things that I didn't see it before, right? But finding a partner, right? If you have mobility issues, I would say find you a partner, someone that can help you navigate the landscape so that you don't feel isolated and alone.
The Columbus Convention Center has some information on their website about the various accessibility things that they have for the location. So as Bobby was saying, making that PLAN, you can check that in advance if this is something that is a concern for you, and find out, what kind of resources the facility is going to have, contact NIGP about any resources you may need or special accommodations. Those resources are available to make that plan and get set up for success for yourself.
And when it comes to dietary restrictions, I believe during registration, there's somewhere for people that have those restrictions to let NIGP know. So that's part of the progression that I've seen with NIGP, with noticing that everyone is not the same, but we want to be transparent, we want to be open, and we want to allow everyone who wants to come, that they can come enjoy it the same way that everyone else can.
Perfect.
Inclusion. We want everyone in our community to be there as much as they can, as much as they can afford it, and to contribute to those conversations. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then just lastly on physical health, do you have any tips or insights on like the illness prevention, right? I know we've lived through that thing a few years ago. So I think most folks remember the golden rules of washing the hands and using hand sanitizer and staying away if you're sick. But do you have any more maybe practical or like real life advice on that?
I think what is important is for everyone to understand what their own individual needs are and make sure that your individual needs are met because we all have different needs, right? But I would say make sure that your needs are met because everyone else may have a different need. So back to self first, right? It's okay to put yourself first and it does not make you selfish. So that's what I would say to that, Ryan.
Thank you so much for that. That is, I think, a really solid reminder of, right, exactly. You can only take care of your or the other things if you're taking care of yourself first. So I think that's a great reminder.
As someone who came home from Forum with COVID in my carry-on, it's definitely something to be concerned about. Thankfully, it was very mild for me, but it's definitely something that you're exposing yourself to at a large event like this. So, as you said, make your plan, be aware of your own needs, and put your needs first.
And I would just add to that in closing, and this is something that I started doing. I would actually go to my primary care physician and say, hey, I have a trip that's coming up. Is there anything that I need to do? Because I have my own thing going on, right? So I would suggest checking in with your primary care physician to say, hey, I'm going to this place. Is there anything that I need to be aware of? I would say that's a good plan. Just check in not only with yourself, but with your doctor to make sure that you can come here and be successful.
Great suggestion. Making that plan. Making
TLA.
that plan.
Four-letter word, but hardest thing to do. We heard it from Bobby here.
That's my experience. Like, we didn't plan for this. No answer is an answer, right?
Indeed. So now that we've covered both the physical and mental side of it, maybe we can also touch on the emotional aspect of the conference, right? It's not just about being tired. Sometimes you're surrounded by people all day long. You're learning a ton. You're trying to keep that professional code switch more or less on, that call center voice and the happy hotel lobby employee smile. But right, suddenly then you are feeling homesick or overstimulated. How do we manage the emotional component as forum attendees?
I can tell you for me personally, I did self scans, right? I monitored my breathing. I understood if my heart was racing, like, okay, I'm getting overly stimulated. So it comes from understanding your own personal needs because it's different for everyone, right? But when you start to feel irritable, when you start to feel overwhelmed, when you're just in this fog of what do I do next, clear signs that you are emotionally overloaded. Great time to step back. We started this session off with some breathing, right? So do some box breathing just to reset yourself. We talked a couple of years ago about doing chair yoga. That's something that you can do. Most importantly, I think, is just being self aware. If you are in touch with yourself, your mind, body, and spirit, you know when you're doing too much, right? Your body is telling you you're doing too much. And we usually run past those warning signs until we hit that red spot, right? As long as it's yellow, we keep going, right? But when it hits red, like, oh, we're here. And now what do? You don't want to get there, right? You don't want to get to that red spot. Notice when you're in that yellow zone, be okay with stepping back, reconnecting with your breath, and maybe just talking to somebody that may be overwhelmed too, right? If you don't talk to other people, you think that you're the only person that's going through this, right? But after you talk to a few people, you're like, wow, are you overwhelmed too? Yeah, what do you do? So part of it is having those conversations with other people to say, you look really calm. What are you doing? Right. And I've done that, like, oh, you looking good, girl. What are you doing? Right.
What's your secret?
I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, staying in touch with yourself, knowing what your triggers are, right? If you know that you're going to a class that is a class that is heavy, right? You knew this. This is something you don't know. This is something that you're going to learn. take a few moments before you walk into that room to just do some box breathing, to just, get yourself in the right mindset so that you can receive that. Right? If you're overwhelmed with your emotions, someone is just talking to you. Nothing is going in here, right? It's all stuck on all these other things, right? So how do you reset and reconnect? I call it step away.
It just, oh, no, go ahead, Donna.
Oh, I was just going to say, we talked a little bit earlier about everybody has a different way of doing that recovery, right? Like some people need to be in a quiet space, like you said, do some box breathing. Some people need to check in with someone, talk to someone. How was your class? That socialization. Everybody does this in a different way. And like we were saying, be mindful of, think about the ways that you handle those things, right? If you just really need, I got to go talk to somebody, I got to hear about their class, I got to reconnect, whatever works for you is being aware of that and taking those opportunities when you need them, in whatever way works for you.
And I come back to that guilt, right? We want to do these things, but we feel guilty, right? We feel that if we take a moment for ourselves, that I'm at this conference, who's going to know? They're going to know I didn't go. So sometimes we put all of that on ourselves. So I'm saying give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to do what you need to do for you and be okay with it. I'm saying that because I used to feel guilty all the time. If I was just taking some time for myself to do something, I'm thinking how I could be helping someone else, right? Well, I could be doing this or I could be doing that. Not anymore.
Yep.
Along that, along that vein of the having the guilt, right, also comes the opposite end of that, which is setting and reinforcing those boundaries with yourself. We can have that 4-letter word buttoned up, we're doing all the things, but you're at a forum with strangers and friends and colleagues, and it is very easy to let yourself get into that red zone by taking on too much, by giving into, I won't call it peer pressure, but it's kind of what it is sometimes. You got your buddy that's saying, hey, let's go out for dinner, or there's a great networking session, and perhaps you're just deadbeat tired and you just want to go back into your hotel room and decompress. Any guidance or pro tips on just making sure that you are sticking to those boundaries and not letting anyone else derail your plan?
Yes. So typically NIGP has evening events, 1 or 2, right? So if I knew that I was going to an evening event, I may not have gone to that last class, right? I'm giving myself space and grace to say, running from one event to another, I just need to not go to that last class, go back to my hotel, take care of me first, right? Do what I need to do to resettle back into myself. And okay, now let's go to this event. Now I'm present. I've had the opportunity to decompress, and now I can engage in a very authentic way.
That's very, very practical advice, and I think I know we and our viewers definitely will appreciate that. Having covered then kind of the main pillar components of well-being, Donna, I kind of want to ask you, how do you feel after conferences, right? Going to conferences and that you're surrounded by all that activity and then you're home.
Yeah, we talk a lot about, bring your layers and bring your comfortable shoes, but there's never as much conversation about how are you going to feel when you go home, right? Like, for a lot of people, they see good friends that they've known for many years at Forum, and then they have to go home and feel sad that they don't get to see their friends for another year. Or you get home and you're overwhelmed by how much work you have when you get back to your office, and oh my gosh, so and so didn't take care of that stuff they were supposed to take care of while I was gone. And that we don't talk about that part of this as much as we do bring your water bottle and your comfortable shoes. So, Bobby, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that, about how people feel when they get home.
For the past decade, when I go to Forum, I always take the next day off. I take a vacation day to give myself time. And I've been doing that for decades, at least a decade. It's my vacation time, right? I knew after going through some things that I can't just go back to work. I need the opportunity to just settle back into myself. I have a dog. I want my dog to settle back in because he's probably been at the border and just doing my laundry, doing all of the things, right? Because once you start back to work, you're you're in there, right? And my thought is, if it lasted all this time, one more day is not going to hurt, right? One more, and if so, I'm at home, so I can do whatever I need to do. But I gave myself that grace and take a vacation day when the conference is over, so that I can reconnect, settle back into myself, into my home, and get ready to go back into whatever I'm going to have to face on that Monday.
Oh, yeah, and time zones too, right? Like your folks are going to be traveling to Eastern time this year, so our West Coast friends are going to be a little discombobulated when they get home. You need some time to recover from that jet lag.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you need that whole day, maybe you need 2 days, or maybe you're doing some other traveling afterwards. And it's, again, making that
Yes.
plan of, oh, I don't just go home and jump right back in. I have a buffer to get adjusted. Yeah.
And that's part of your before and after plan, what we talked about in the beginning. What is your before plan? That's to know what classes you're going to take, right? Knowing where you're going to build in that buffer to reconnect and to decompress. But also, what am I going to do when this is over? Think about that before you go, because you need to put that time in before you leave, right? So
Yep.
think about it and be okay with that, knowing I haven't been here for 4 days. Typically on Fridays, everyone is trying to get out of the office anyway. So I looked at Friday as the day that most people were going to leave. And if there was something really important that I needed to take care of, I did do that, but it was from the comfort of my own home. COVID was a beautiful thing
Yeah.
to allow us that opportunity to work virtually.
No, this has been absolutely phenomenal. And I think just maybe one last piece of this conversation, right? Kind of a nice way to close us would be around just resources and asking for help. Um, Knowing right when you're stressed or that's not the moment that you want to start Googling what you need, self-care techniques or breathing techniques, or heaven forbid you need to go to an emergency room or see an urgent care doctor or get a prescription refilled, perhaps you lost on the plane or whatnot. What should attendees identify before they travel so that they can know where help is before they need it as a part of their PLAN?
So, what I mentioned earlier about going to my primary care physician in advance to traveling, especially if I'm going to be on a plane for a few hours. So, I say part of it is getting whatever medical assistance you may need before you go. If you have prescriptions, make sure that you have your prescriptions with you. That's a whole nother story. I don't want to digress. But making sure you have the medicine that you need, making sure that you're giving yourself time and space. But most important is putting your mental and emotional well being as your priority and not feeling guilty about it. Creating your plan for the classes that you're going to attend, making a plan for whatever after hours events that you're going to attend. If you want to go to dinner, just make sure that you're giving yourself space and grace.
And reaching out to people if you need help. Like,
Yes.
Even both people in your own life that are part of your support system, and also people around you, people you are meeting at that first timers event, or folks that you know from attending previous conferences, right? It's, hey man, I just need to talk to somebody for a minute. Can we chat? I just need a little time to talk to someone, right? Those folks are going to be available to you as well. And but the hard part is always reaching out to them, taking that
Yes.
time for yourself, investing that in yourself instead of just pushing to that red zone and
Yes.
picking it up later.
When I did the first Becoming a Human Being seminar, it was two parts. There were over 500 people that attended in person and virtually. So that says to me, this is definitely something that is needed. People, either they don't know how to do it or they're not taking the time to do it. But at the end of the day, it's not really getting done. So when I took that on, I gave all kind of resources. We have a site on NIGP. I just started a Facebook page, being a human. So I can give you some of those links so that people have some resources either to this Facebook page or to the NIGP Insight page. So there are resources out there for you to either look at before you come, look at while you're there, and look at it once you leave. So we have those resources out there for our members.
Wonderful. Yeah, the resources are available if you know where to look and if you take care of yourself and look for them, right? I think that's one of our big takeaways is invest the time and the energy in taking care of yourself and preparing for any big event like this. You have to invest in yourself.
And I would say that whatever it is that we're learning for forum, that we should have a continuum after forum, right? Don't just make your plan for forum, make it a lifestyle, which is what I've done. It's a lifestyle for me now. It's like, when I start feeling away, so I went to an event a couple of weeks ago and they was like, where is Bobby? I was overwhelmed. I was like, I just stepped away and went outside, took a walk, and I was like, where you go? I just needed a moment, right? Because I felt overwhelmed. I was with people that I didn't know. I was in someone's house that I didn't know, and people were trying to get to know me. And it's like, oh my God, I just felt overwhelmed. So I just stepped away for 10 or 15 minutes and came back and I was okay. So I say take it beyond the form and make it a lifestyle.
I think that is definitely practical words to live by. And I want to say thank you so much for taking the time today to come talk with us about such an important concept of that full circle of being well, of that mental, that physical, that well-being, caring for yourself, investing in yourself in terms of having that self-awareness and knowing what your body needs and how to address it in real time. Any final thoughts, Donna, just as we close up this month's segment? I don't know if there's any additional announcements that I might be missing.
No, I think, as always, the early registration will end on May 31st. So if you've been on the fence and you are still interested in registering, if you want to save that extra money, be sure to put in to register before May 31st. And we're going to have another segment coming next month for preparing for Columbus. And I think the only other thing to say is thank you so much, Bobby, for joining us. We are so glad to have your experience and your advice here for the viewers to prepare for attending forum. As always, a wealth of wonderful information.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Ryan, for the invitation. And I would just like to close by saying becoming a human being and not just a human doing, it's more about being and less about doing.
I think that is no greater place to end. So thank you so much, and we will see y'all next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.